T.S. Spivet movie. The story of the movie begins or a genius child named Puff, or we know he's a fan of physics and inventions, but you have difficulties and no one supports him from his family.
The reason is not, and this is why we will know the passage of events.
One day, Buffy decided he was leaving the house, and he travels to Washington on a mod, and he finds someone who everything changes with his face. He comes home and lives happily, his family. And now we know that Puff has a twin brother named Layton. But his personality is completely different from his brother Puff, and we know that they live together on the farm. And they have an older sister named Jessie, and their father is a farmer, and their mother is an entomologist.
And now we go back to the year with events and see a Puff. He attends physics and mathematics lectures.
Its theme was the permanent movement. And with this scene, we see Papa sitting and his sister Jessie on the farm, and he sees this drawing that was drawn by the corn grains. The one who is a detailed minute, but his sister does not care about the subject. After a few minutes, the mother comes and she needs an insect in her hands. She was trying to write. We saw one. At the same time, the phone of their house is ironed, and he enters Buff on Modi and the caller was a professor from Washington named Gibson. And she was talking Puff about the invention he invented, and the one who sent a university in Washington without anyone knowing. And Hannah, we know it's Puff.
The permanent motion device came out.
And the professors asked Pav to give news to his family on Mod June. They received the award, but Wafi was afraid that his family underestimated his ability. He refuses to receive the award, but the teacher insists on him and says, "I want to puzzle your father." Buffy changes his voice and imitates his father's voice. And he started talking, "Oh teacher," and thanked her. The connection closes, and then Baphium comes out. His sister Jessie tells her what happened.
It is a noise from him because he is young and will receive a prize.
And then she,
without any progress in school stages, and hush.
We discover that Jessie was dreaming and hoping that she would become a famous actress, dancing and singing on stage. But her father rejected the idea. She needs hobby money, and it is difficult for him to save her this money, because he is a traditional farmer and loves to live in the countryside. As for the mother, she was very interested in entomology,
or all her time was finished studying.
Or, of course, Puff inherited this intelligence from his mother, Ben Malenton. He was a normal child living his childhood and all his worries about eating and games. One day, Lytton was playing with guns or by mistake. He kills himself, or from the day this family is sad and hates the biography, or 2 years after these events. We see Puff at the school, and the professor gave him the result of the exam, and he was well appreciated. And Hannah Puff objects to the estimate, but the professor refuses his objection and he mocks me. Paff is looking at a scientific magazine with the same question. The one who brought the professor or came up with the correct answer. His money on Mod proves to the professor that his solution is correct. Or after Papa gets out of school, he comes home. He sees his father on the road and goes up with him in the car. And he knows that his father loves his brother Layton more than him, because Layton's character resembles his father's character. Or if Layton remained until now, he would have been his favorite son. One day,
only a miniature model of the farm.
Their money, and he saw it for his father. But the father does not care about the subject or the father's reaction. Buff's shock and sadness is all a hobby, and this time we see Jessie and her mother hurling the clothes. Or Jessie says to her mother, "I want to act," but her mother refuses and tells her there is no need, and she seemed to make a mistake. And at dinner time, the family was a group. Valam says, "Al Buff, I have a scientific conference on insects and I want you to come with me."
But Buffy refuses and tells her that I don't go. I want to stay home or at night.
Buffy keeps thinking about calling the professor. He decided he was leaving Washington without anyone knowing. He brought his clothes and things and said goodbye to his brother Layton's empty room. Also, let the dog leave their money and all his family were sleeping. And he seemed to walk, surprised to see his father in the car. And he was passing by and going, "What does he say to him, any word?" Pav was more sad when he was saying between himself and himself, "My father may care that I am the reason for Maddleton. That's why he loves me. He wants to get rid of me." Here's Puff to the train station. Or he was trying to get on a train carrying cargo, but the police see him. But Baff appreciated that he escaped from them, and he climbed quickly. Or start the Washington trip. On the train, he was sitting alone contemplating the road or reading a book about science, and even more bored. He imagines his brother Layton Way, and he is talking about him. Or after the train arrives close to the border,
I was a police inspecting the goods as a routine procedure.
So how much he runs out of them by acting on them. It's a cartoon on the cover of the merchandise. Or days later, the train will reach the last station. What is Washington? And the first thing Bushington sees, it's the mobile car that sells sausage sandwiches. Or Buffy himself was eating it, but his mother was not accepting. They eat fast food, Here is Puff Candy walking between the carts, and the chaff of an old man moves. Tokalaos, the first person Bushington recognized. Vatokalaos takes the door to his house, or tell him the story of the bird that spins on a place where he lives. And the difficulties he was facing somewhat throws the pine tree.
And what is the only place where the bird is destined to build a life?
On Maud Live with him, the only pine tree that doesn't sign its leaves. Changing seasons, and the goal he meant to coalesce from this story on a mod that makes Buffy spin in the right and appropriate place. God, and he is right. He will get tired at first and face difficulties, but in the end, he is the one who will win. Or then Buffy comes out or keeps spinning on the same food car. On Maud eating from it, but suddenly the police came and they were spinning on a missing child. So you get down to the food car, and she asks the structure that is standing and the one that was selling. They asked her about the person, or saw her picture of the missing child. He looks the same. But they're paying attention. God, but the structure of the car that sells, I knew that this is Puff. But she's what she said. Or after he eats and finishes, he returns on the way, and he sees a phone and thinks that he is calling his family and reassuring them, and he wanted to tell them that I was fine. And Hannah Bab returns to Tar Station. On Maud, he takes his things, so we see his diary book. Or he throws his mother a high thinker writer.
Brother, what may she be affected by his absence?
Or after he
death?
reads all the words his mother wrote, he keeps crying. Because no one was interested in him. And the second day, Puff gets off the train and takes only the important things from his purposes. Ali Maud begins with the second stage of his trip. Or on the way, Puff sees a policeman. So Puff started running, and the police was running after.
Until the end, Puff jumps on a drawbridge to escape from it.
The drawbridge separates into two pieces, with one piece and the police with another piece. And Puff stays sticking to the piece because the place is very dangerous. But in the end, he was destined to survive or run away from the cop.
Whoever wants to jump the bridge, he has a strong stomach.
And Hanana Puff is sitting on the sea and relaxing. He sees the compass, his death is broken, or the mummified bird's skull was broken. Or we know the end was the memory from his mother and he kept it. Then he walks the street. He stopped a car and got in it. And he recognizes the driver whose name is Ridgy or Ridgy. Papa asks, where are you going? He says, I want to go to the city center. And behind it, Buffy, see the place that I went to.
And that he was everything that hurt my team.
He says, let him take you to the doctor.
But Buffy refused to see the doctor after some hours.
Take a picture. Oh, Puff. He tells all the people who go up and take a picture of the memory with them. And he sees the pictures he has, and he sees the picture of Al-Reiki. He was in the army and in uniform. Or he was holding his gun on one of the criminals. He tells him the story of this picture, or then Puff arrives at school. And when he enters, he is fascinated by the construction of the enormity of the place.
Prue Wessel asks the receptionist about Professor Gibson.
She calls her and quickly the teacher comes and is shocked.
From the size of Omar Puff.
Or at first, Gibson don't believe in Buff.
But whoever explains the invention to her is his money, and how else is he?
Believe in him and welcome him too. Or then take him to the doctor until he reveals him after what he was in pain.
From the place I got into.
And those who come back on the way, Gibson, you drop a paper with words written on it.
This is what Baker tells in the meeting.
But Puff refuses to take the paper. He tells her that I am a record of the words I delivered early, and I never need this talk. I don't need the paper. And Hannah, Professor Gibson, is taking a door to the lab on Mode. They measure his intelligence. The doctor tells her that his intelligence level is very normal, and he doesn't have any super IQ. Gibson is shocked and takes Puff and looks out. On the second day, Gibson wears a dress Puff. She dresses it on a mod that is distinguished from the rest of the children. You call all people on Puff and ask him questions. And they weren't smiling on his face, but he was thinking of a book he'd read before.
It tells about how to distinguish laughter,
whether it's true or fake. And the way is that the eye muscles, fixed if the laugh is fake. Or through this way, discover that everyone who laughs is fake laughter. Then he came to give the speech and he met the headmaster. Or he started offering a door to attend.
Or the headmaster respected him despite his young age.
And the first time he goes up the theater door, he gets a little confused, but then he starts to tell and say a brief overview of his invention. Or who completes. He asks the audience to tell them the story of his brother's death. And my twin brother Lytton says to them he died from, and I were playing together. I was doing a science experiment, or Leighton, to play with weapons. Or suddenly he accidentally shot himself and died. Since then, my mother and father have blamed me for the death of my brother.
When I sat crying.
My sister and I are in the bathroom for a whole day. I also remember who the ambulance came and took my brother's body. Everyone in the audience is affected by what they heard.
And they conquer him and stop.
And they applauded him out of respect and appreciation. Surprisingly, Umpuff was in the audience. and she heard all Puff's words. And she seemed to cry, and then Puff and Gibson came back in the car, and Gibson was all the way praising him, his intelligence and his personality.
But Puff was not focused on her, and he was thinking about his family.
He was thinking about the farm and their lives. After Layton's death, or after the passing of the days and the success that Puff presented, Gibson test looked Puff's job on Mod Tashar,
Or she was taking it to the studio on a mod to shoot it.
or she was losing it in the car in the whole city,
On mod she is famous.
or then Puff is famous.
Programs and channels.
Mazunia begins to host him, and he began to see press meetings. Now we go back to the farm and see Jessie, Puff's sister. She was watching her brother's meetings. She was happy and proud of him, or she always told her friends about him.
One of his meetings. The announcer was the host of M-Puff.
Puff tells in front of everyone and tells them that it is Puff.
What is the fault of what happened? And she hugged him very strongly.
And then you take Puff and get out of the program, or who you look out for. The mother sees Professor Gibson and her adult hits her.
She used her son for fame.
And the announcer was trying to stop Puff until she came out and take Puff. But suddenly Abu Puff comes or hits the announcer, and they go back to the farm together or enter it to their house. And after time we see Mbabe, who is pregnant. Or then the mother gives birth to the child, or a door invented. God moves the crib and becomes a vibrator. Hannah and her family change their view of, they were all happy and proud of me. And the whole family lives in peace and life, natural and sweet, and the one here will be the end of the movie.